KMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.
And that's we need God. Only God can bring us out of this mess.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Donnie Glover, and we're going to talk about some politics this evening. Let's get straight to the jugular. We have with us, first of all, Mr. Julius Henson, political consultant, advisor extraordinaire. Good evening, sir. Oh, you got to turn your mic. Oh, okay. Also, Mr. Kenny Brown, political pundit out in Northwest Baltimore County. How you doing, Kenny? Hey, Kenny. Can you hear us, Kenny? Your mic sounds muted. And then Mr. Michael Haney, he's no veteran to BlackUSA.News, one of our big-time contributors and sponsors. Matter of fact, he just went off there. Good evening, Mr. Haney.
Hey, Donnie. How's everyone?
Good, good, good. So let's just go straight to it. Mr. Henson, how's it looking out there?
Which race?
Okay, let's go with the Attorney General's race. Is Katie O'Malley gonna knock out Anthony Brown, or is he gonna survive the championship rounds and come with the overhand right in the end to win?
Donnie, I don't know. I think my Caucasian sisters and brothers might go 3-0. I would not be surprised.
You say no African American?
That very well could be. Yeah.
Well, that's disheartening.
Well, I don't know. Go talk to some Carroll County Democrats and see what they do.
What role does the black vote play in this election, Mr. Henson?
It all depends on turnout, of course, I think. And if black people vote in large numbers, Mr. Moore wins. The state's attorney win, et cetera, et cetera. But if they don't, I don't see much of a chance. Now, this is still an old line state. Now, I don't know about this post-Obama stuff or not, but in Maryland, they tend not to vote for black people, not statewide. I mean, is that too hard for your show? I'm sorry.
No, we need a reality check. I guess I was just enamored with the 8 years of Barack Obama and figured that it might catch some momentum.
He was a special kind of guy. I mean, he didn't do nothing for your people, but he was a special kind of guy. Uh-oh. That's too hard too. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, we accept it. We accept it. Okay, so Brooke Learman, Tim Adams. Did Tim Adams show
Tim's not strong in his hometown. He's not strong in his hometown. And they got the all the big money from Washington, D.C., got a lot of pull. I think she nudges out. I think she beats him handily.
The state's attorney's race, you said if black people show up, then Maryland has a chance.
I think Maryland. I think Maryland wins anyway. No white people gonna vote for her, but I think she wins anyway. she's gonna probably get most of the black vote, and that should be enough to win. I mean, not that I suspect that she'll get convicted and all that, but she'll be in a better bargaining position if she wins the election. Be
I
better
never
for her
looked at
children.
it like that.
No, she'll be in a much better. I mean, if the people vote you in, it's pretty difficult. I mean, they can take it from you, but it's difficult to do after you've been, voted in by the people. There's no general election in Baltimore, so you can't just take that any kind of way. I mean, they're gonna take it, but she'll have more leverage, maybe save some pension, may not go to prison, et cetera, et cetera. It would be better for her if she won. That's the reason why I'm voting for her. So she can get a better deal for her children.
Mike Haney, you look like you smelled a rotten egg. That's the look on your face.
Well, first of all, I have a huge amount of respect for Mr. Henson, and I mostly agree with him, particularly with the exception of I think Anthony Brown wins. I think he wins. I think Anthony Brown is, if you talk about him, representative of our people, somewhat suspect anyway. And I think it's our people that cost him the election when he ran for governor. So therefore, I think that by default, the party that hurt him won't hurt him and have the chance to hurt him for attorney general. So I think he wins that race. I think Lieberman is a machine that goes deeper than just her, and I think that's going to be hard to overcome.
Black people.
I'm sorry?
Is she going to do anything for black people?
Does she have to?
Yes.
Why does she have? No, she don't. She doesn't have to. Nor does she have to rely on them for her vote.
And you would
So
vote.
I think Tim Adams, came out of the gate a bit too late to be viable. And then when you go to, I heard Mr. Henson mention 3 whites. I think, if Wes had learned from Stacey Abrams about the significance of get out the vote during midterms, because that was as crucial as him getting his name out, he has to get the vote out. If he doesn't get the vote out, you see Francho across the bridge, every county, Western Maryland, Frederick, Garrett, Washington County, Carroll County. Francho finished no worse than 3rd in Baltimore City, I think. I think Prince George's County is going to be a surprise for Francho, and I think Baltimore County, he wins. And it's going to be hard to get him if he doesn't finish less than 2nd in like the Howard and Anne Arundel County. And then you talked about.
Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. So Francho's, the story on him thus far was, in about a year, he's moved 1 point in a year, and he has no money. So I'm wondering how you think he's going to win that race with no money, and he hasn't moved a point in a year.
Who, Francho?
This is totally in the side. You two were born on the same day. You both March 20th babies.
I'm March 20th.
You're not?
I'm March 20th, and I was March 20th before you were.
Yes, sir. And that's why I call you Mr. Henson. But that doesn't mean I have to agree with you. But it's all good.
No, you don't have to agree with me.
But like I said, I think when you talk about you talked about the money. You asked me a question. You said, "Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
How can Peter win with no money?" And you look at the relevance of money and where money is being spent, right? So Francho is spending very little in TV ads. West is, because he has to broaden the knowledge of his name. Francho is doing more direct with the last 642,000 he has. West has about 800,000 left. King, or not King, Perez has about same, but Perez I don't think has a chance. When you look at West and Francho has a stronger base that votes. Like you mentioned earlier, you did say that black people don't vote in significant numbers, particularly during the midterm. When you look at Obama, and his candidacy, we got behind him. I think Wes's message could have been a bit sharper in
Mr. Haney,
terms of.
I want to stop you, Mr. Haney. You're going a little
Mhm.
too far. This is just a preliminary round. Hold that thought. Mr. Kenny Brown, come on, give your introductory statement. Where you at with this election? Oh, you're muted, Kenny. You got to unmute yourself. Yeah, we can't hear. You got to unmute. I tell you what, Kenny, go out and come back in. Go out and come back in. Go ahead, Mr. Haney.
Yeah, and you know, as I said, I think that with Francho as a base that comes out and votes, particularly when we talk about Washington, Garrett County, Frederick County, across the bridge, I don't see Westmore winning anything across the bridge. And I think Baltimore, I think Prince George's County is going to be important. It's going to be important. If West is to win.
Across the bridge, Mr. Haney, because you
So
said
you got
you said West doesn't win. At the same time, you still, let's not forget Kelly Schultz, Dan Cox. They're not necessarily the biggest. Well, you know, what are your thoughts about that? He's
so
not
across
alone.
the bridge, I'm talking about Kent. Yeah, I'm talking about Kent, Easton counties, Worcester County. I'm talking about that brand over there. We didn't get to a general election, and whether Cox or Schultz lines up better with Moore or Francho, we're talking about, I thought, the Democratic aspect of it now. But
well,
I think that
Republican, who wins, Kelly Schultz or Dave or Dan Cox?
Well, you know, I interviewed Dan Cox, and black people were intrigued by what he says. Matter of fact, if you look at the data on the show, 60 Minutes in Black America, Kelly wouldn't come. She wouldn't come. But Dan Cox came.
Maybe you scared her away.
Yeah, maybe 60 Minutes in Black America did, probably did. But it will be interesting. I think Kelly's going to eke it out, even though Dan right now is leading. She's got the money. I think you're going to see a lot put in the last few days. But she lines up better. 80% of the white Democratic voters say they would vote for Kelly if they had a choice, but only 40% said they would vote for Cox, which is why the Democratic National Party is putting money in Cox because they hope he wins, because it almost assures a Democratic victory in November. So there's a lot of strategy going on between us just saying who's going to win. A lot of behind the scenes stuff happening, particularly regionally in these counties, you know, that's happening. But I think Francho at the end of the day is going to carry Baltimore County, which is significant. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of people in Prince George's County.
You buy that, Mr. Henson?
Not a single bit. I mean, if a guy didn't move in a year, not 1 point, I don't know how you expect for him to win. I don't know how anybody expect for him to win. And you said earlier that he didn't have to spend the money. Well, he ain't had no money to spend. It was all gone. So, you know, if you a week out, basically a week out, and you ain't got no money and you ain't got no money to spend, you ain't gonna make it. So
well, when you said earlier about 3 whites winning or 3 non-blacks winning, because you may not have meant white.
Well, I included
who were you referring to?
I put Perez in there. I mean,
okay, so you kind of Perez as a right.
Yeah, I think I actually think he's the sleeper. You know, he's been moving very well, and you know, I would not be surprised at all if Perez wound up being a winner.
What?
Yeah. Now I'm hoping for Wes Moore. I'm going to vote for Wes Moore, but I have no illusions about who Wes Moore is and what he's going to do for black people in this state. You don't get to run a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar charity. All the Jews in Pikesville, they can't give him enough money. So you know what that tells me? He's not going to be no good for us, for sure. So, you know, I mean, if you want to, you know, say we got a black governor for the first time, which wouldn't be bad. I hope it would happen, but if he does win, I don't think he's going to do our thing. Now, I know
so the aesthetics is good enough for you. The aesthetics is good enough for you to have a black face that's not effective. You okay with that because that's where your
Here's
vote
my
is going.
here's my policy, and it's my personal vote. Okay, my policy is, regardless how awful the black candidate is, that's still my candidate.
I hear you.
Period.
I hear you.
I'm entitled to my vote. Now, I work for people. I've worked for people, made a lot of money off them, and didn't vote for them. Okay, but no, my personal choice. You can make an argument that the worst black person in the world might be better in many aspects than a white person. So I'm
Wow.
going with that. Yeah, I'm going with that.
So what do
Absolutely
you think
unequivocal.
about the Afro-American newspaper, the Afro-American newspaper, not endorsing a black candidate in the race? Just your professional opinion.
Oh, I think it's wrong. I mean, if they a newspaper that quote unquote supposed to, you know, be for the black community and about the black community, then they ought to go with somebody,
Right,
you know.
right. You think
So,
they bought and paid
but
for, and that's why?
yeah, absolutely. If they stood down for no reason whatsoever, somebody paid them. And that's just how it is. That somebody paid them. But you know, you see, basically in Maryland and most parts of this country, white people vote for white people and black people vote for black people. Then black people turn around and vote for white people. So I'm not cut from that ilk of cloth. I gotta, you know, I have to vote for somebody. I'm gonna vote for the black guy. Give him all the benefit of the doubt. Every
Wow.
politician that I've ever known has broken my heart. Period, without exceptions. Now some have been more severe than others, but without exception, you know, it's a disappointing vocation, if you will. It's difficult.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Mr. Henson. I think it's because we're owned, right? So because special interest is what usually black politician when they get, just like you mentioned about Wes and his roots, professional business roots, that when he gets where he goes, he may owe certain favors in certain positions. And that's where we usually find ourselves. You mentioned Marilyn Mosby earlier in terms of you voting for her and her potentially winning. I remember Sheila Dixon. I was sort of suspect in terms of that election, whether she didn't win and whether there was some shenanigans behind the scenes. Catherine Pugh, her being elected didn't help her stay out of jail. And they knew about her crimes before she was elected, right? And so I'm wondering with Maryland, because I agree with you, I support Maryland. I know where she's going and an agenda of straightening out the atrocities in law that blacks have dealt with for centuries. And that's the issue that they face with her. But I'm wondering if the blacks are going to come out as a protest vote in Baltimore City and support her, or is Theroux going to eke it out? Although, I like this other guy, this other black guy that's running in Baltimore City as an alternative black person in that position that may not have to step down in October. What do you think?
Well,
Ivan Bates.
Ivan Bates, that's Donnie's boy. Um, I don't think that much of him. Somebody's got to be state's attorney. I don't think Marilyn Mosby will be the state's attorney next year. Somebody got to be it, and maybe he'd be worthwhile. I certainly wouldn't want Theroux over Ivan Bates, but temporarily right
Does
now.
Larry Hogan get any points supporting Vigna Raja if Larry Hogan has interest in running for mayor of Baltimore, which he has stated to me?
Who has the ability to who want to run for mayor?
Larry Hogan.
Larry Hogan wants to run for mayor
He
of
told me
Baltimore.
he was looking at mayor of Baltimore. And so when I see him supporting Vignaraja, to me, that's the beginning of his fingerprint on Baltimore, of what he thinks Baltimore needs. The only thing is, Vignaraja can't even successfully purchase sex without getting caught in the media or on 25th and Greenmount. That's not somebody I trust.
So let me get this straight. If the man can't properly conduct a sexual transaction for money, you got a problem with it.
He missed twice. I mean, twice. This is a little guy with a Napoleonic complex who uses his position to act as if he loves the people of Baltimore, and that's where I have the problem. I wouldn't vote. I wouldn't vote for him, but I don't know if that disqualifies him from being a good prosecutor because he clumsy with buying the booty. I don't think that's a disqualifier.
Well, I think that integrity is. So Donnie's using a description for integrity, and to what they try to hold everyone else up to, be it Catherine Hughes or any of the other 3 or 4 that we've seen go to jail that were black in the past 4 or 5 years. So his integrity of breaking the law in the street, the very basic law, the oldest, illegal job in the world is prostitution. Here you've got the top prosecutor out there in the corner trying to pay to take advantage of a woman that may be in a very, unfortunate situation. So to me, that's the lowest. That's an issue.
Mike, the part that got me was when he tried to talk himself out of trouble with the police. That's where I have a problem, because the 3 of us, we're typically not afforded that type of opportunity to, hey, can you get a supervisor here? They taking us straight to central booking. We're joined by the cannabis councilman. Come on with the baseball cap, sir. This is, thank you. Martin Mitchell. How are you, Mr. Mitchell?
I'm doing well. How about you? How about yourself?
Good. So come on, Mr. Haney. Freak nasty. That's what they call Vignaraja on the streets. Freak nasty.
Well, you see who's behind them. You see Sinclair Broadcast, the Smiths, who are part of the Pataracus group. So as we said earlier, it goes a lot deeper. It goes a lot deeper in terms of they want to own, when they say we own this city, now they want to own this city in a manner that a black mayor will never. I think we've seen the last of a black mayor for at least the next 8 to 10 years.
Bull crap.
I think so.
Bull crap. Show me a white guy who can take the city.
I think you got Costello. I think you got Cohen.
Get out of here.
Well, Costello has a black girlfriend. I think that's what they say.
Don't give you no pass because you like black women.
Well, Vignaraja, Mr. Nasty was out there trying to buy something from black women. That's what you said, right?
Hey, look. We all know how beautiful black women are. That doesn't count.
No, I think a black mayor is in the far distance. I would not be surprised if it didn't flip back over and stay that way for quite some time. In fact, I thought Catherine Pugh would be the last black mayor.
Was she black?
Was she black?
Yeah.
Okay, what would you want me to say? African American?
Well, I mean, she was heavily accepted by white people in a way that the average black person isn't. I mean, they felt very comfortable. Some said, they viewed her as maybe non-racial.
I don't know about that. Catherine Pugh was the kind of person who let's just say, made friends easy. And that's what she did. And that's who she was. She was the purest opportunist that I've ever met.
Wow.
And I knew her since college. She was sheer, pure ambition. And she did whatever it took to reach her goals.
That's not a leader, though, is it? Kenny Brown, you join us? Can we hear you? Kenny, you got one of them Baltimore County computers. We can't hear you. Okay. We'll try them next time. Maybe try your phone, Kenny. Martin Mitchell, what are you seeing in this governor's race? Originally, you like one person for governor, then you, gentlemen, let me just tell you, this young man we're most impressed with. Tell him who you are, Martin Mitchell.
Sure. I'm from Prince George's County, but better known for being the councilman of the Laurel City, and of course, I'm a patient and an advocate and a political operative. So I've definitely been involved in a lot of different races over the last decade. I am excited about this governor's race. I'm not going to lie. I'm not particularly overly excited about any particular candidate. I will say that over the campaign and over the course of the campaign, I came to know John Barron the most, and I think he's definitely thoughtful, and that's one of the people that I think I'll be throwing my support behind.
Did you make any money with him? Did he give you any money? He write you a check? Anything like that?
No.
Okay.
For
He
John,
got plenty of money.
yeah. I mean,
He got
absolutely.
plenty of money.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it was when I was running as a candidate, he was one of the only people to reach out to me and come out to the city of Laurel, spend time with me even thereafter. Most of the people they reached out to me, and it wasn't even in a personal manner. They wanted me to just host roundtables, or it was very impersonal. So
But he didn't write you a check for your campaign?
No, he didn't. He didn't write me a check for my campaign.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you.
I mean, I'm just surprised he's funding his own gubernatorial campaign to the tune of what, like $3 million or something like that, 1.7 million.
Yeah, that's about right.
So what exactly do you like about this guy?
I mean, particularly, I didn't know he was gonna put me on the spot. Like I was.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. The curiosity just came out of me when I look at a guy like that, self-funded, black woman riding on a bike with him, and he's, trying to buy his way because, he could write me a check and get something from me, but I didn't know the substance of his platform relative to black economics, and maybe you can share that with me.
Sure.
Well,
I mean, a lot of what like he speaks about as far as like black economics is improving improving like the school, as far as tutoring, as far as making sure universal health care, things of that nature. His are more like quality of life. That's really how I would view it.
Well, listen, I talked to him early on in this campaign. He's friends with a pal of mine, and I had a couple meetings over the phone with them. And one of the things I asked him was, I said, well, who you got black working for you? You know what he told me? He said they working on it. I said, working on it? So he told me that they had like a Puerto Rican. And I said, yeah, okay, right. But
I can't. I
don't get him.
defend him.
I don't get him.
And
And that woman with that on that bike on behind him, I hope you wasn't advising him to do that, because that was the worst thing one of the worst things I ever seen.
Unbelievable.
Him on that bike with that woman, she all behind him looking goofy. Come on.
I almost looked at that, Mr. Henson, as black exploitation. Reminded me of a film from the 70s, man.
Terrible. And so the girl he picked, the friend of mine had a girl he was trying to get some work for, because she does media stuff, communication stuff rather. And so he just said he needed a black woman so bad, so he just said, here, take her. This woman was in communications. He took her as the lieutenant governor.
True.
That's how serious that boy was. Okay.
Well, that was the going thing to get a black woman as a candidate, unless you were a black candidate.
I get it.
That was a going thing. He had to find somebody to stay in the race.
But it wasn't even nobody in politics. But okay.
Hey, I mean,
so where do you think he finished? Where do you think he finished?
Where do I think he finishes? Whew.
Yes.
I mean, you know, I'm not a political analyst, but you know,
You know he finished last. You know he finished
You're
last.
not a
Don't you?
political analyst.
You just finished giving us all your credentials.
I see
You know he finished
councilmen,
last.
cannabis councilmen. You
I'm
got to be kidding me. What are you smoking, brother? What are you saying?
You know, I'm gonna be hopeful. I'm
Look,
gonna be hopeful. You know, I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna be optimistic for
he
it.
gonna be
I'm gonna be optimistic.
okay. That's fair.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I don't want to jinx anything. You know,
So just tell us it's a protest vote.
you said the protest. No. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it was a protest vote. I definitely wouldn't say that. I would say I don't think it's a vote that particularly like hurts, you know, any of the top two candidates, you know.
What did he spend that $3 million on? TV?
I mean, he spent a lot on TV. I'm not sure exactly how much, but you know, I and not just TV, but different ads. I know a lot of people in the last few months spend a lot of time on the radio, you know, Facebook and, you know, prime time.
Man, you know what he's doing? He knows he's not going to win. All it is public relations for his business, man. Wait till he comes out with a new product and what he does after it. You know what I'm saying? So now he's exposed himself to the world for $3 million that he writes off. Got guys like you know what I'm saying, listening to him. So he has a new demographics of clientele because that's what they do. You know what I'm saying? And so, as you mentioned, your vote not going to hurt the top two. But suppose we were all behind West to be the first black governor, even though, as Mr. Henson said, that may not get us a lot of traction. So here's your vote going elsewhere because, you know, you're entitled to do what you want to do, but the discernment of why we do what we do, particularly when we have a voice like you. You've got a voice in Prince George's County. People know you, man. I know you and haven't met you, and yet you're going to tell me that you can't quantify your opinion as a public person. And I'm
Because the guy was nice to you.
And didn't write you a check. He didn't write you a check.
I mean, I'll be honest to you, right? A lot of times, especially us in politics, it is like a personal relationship that we have with that person, and you know, a belief that we have in that person, right? Like outside of course, having the political and the policy conversations.
Personal relationship. What does that mean?
You know what? I've been in this 30 years. I ain't never had that. But okay.
Okay, let's not get bogged down. Richard Deshae Elliott, just your camera, unmute your mic and come on in and tell us who you are. Also, Mr. Kenny Brown, you've been waiting longer.
Hey, Mr. Brown.
Can you hear me now?
You were doing so fine.
What happened?
Okay, there you go.
Am I back?
Hey, Mr. Brown.
Hey, how's it going, guys? What did I miss?
Who do you like, Kenny? And
For
look,
what office?
you got to keep that camera still. You're making us get dizzy.
I'm going to set it down now.
There you go.
All right, here we go.
Welcome, Kenny. We have the most dynamic panel in the state of Maryland. We've got Prince George's County and Montgomery County covered. We got Baltimore County covered. We got the state of Maryland covered. Mike Haney, be a good host. Show me what you got.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Mr. Brown, I know we were trying to get to you earlier. So the question was, who do you like in the top three races? Let's start with governor first.
Well, that's not a question in my mind. That's Wes Moore. And
how does Wes win? How does Wes win?
Well, here it is. The fact that you're still talking about him being in the top two, and here was a guy who's never been in the race going against two guys who have been out there for 16 years and came out of the gate like a rocket. And Perez, he's got what? All that federal and White House behind him. And here we are 9-10 days out, and we're still talking about Wes Moore. He's done something right. His game has been good. It's kept him in it this far. and I believe he'll do what he needs to do to get across the finish line.
What does his base look like? Who's his base?
Well, when you're talking about black people, you better have black people there to support you. Now, Julian, you said it right. Will black folks turn out? I don't know what that turnout's going to look like, but we got Richard here. I don't know where the progressives are with all of this, but I got a feeling that he'll have that crossover appeal. If he can get black folks to turn out and get some of those young folks to stay with him, who knows? He might be able to take and package enough of those numbers together to get them across the finish line.
Wow. So you're saying if if the black vote turns out, he has a chance. That's what you're saying, right?
Well, he has a huge chance, and
So,
everybody knows.
let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question. So,
Mm-hmm.
so far, we were getting about 40 to 45% early vote.
Mm-hmm.
It's way down this year. Do you think that that's a measurement of low turnout or what? I mean, it could pick up in the next few days, but so far it's been very light.
It's a low turnout.
I mean, and West need, do you agree that West need high turnout?
Well, and in the beginning, I was one of these people who believed he needed to overperform in places like Baltimore County, Baltimore City, that he needed those numbers to be up. I think he's doing okay in Prince George's County. You guys, if he's not, y'all tell me. But Prince George's being the powerhouse it is, and if he gets that wrapped up, Baltimore City, Donnie, would you agree West will carry Baltimore City?
I've seen him here more than anyone else. I have seen him. I've seen him before the election. And let me just say for the record, back in 2016, Wes expressed to me that he was interested in running for mayor. And of course, at that point, I was heavily invested in the Sheila Dixon campaign, and I asked him not to, and he didn't. And so therefore, I am compelled to have to help this man to the best of my ability.
I think the Francho people can see Baltimore City. I think they'll say if they finish in the top 3 in Baltimore City, they can see Baltimore City to Moore and to Perez, but the intrigue will be Baltimore County. You've got the cannabis councilman and Rich out there in the county. I think that Francho believes he's going to overperform in Baltimore County, win Baltimore County, and overperform in Prince George's County. I wonder what the Prince Georgians say out there.
Now, let's not forget Johnny Olszewski endorsed the other
Perez.
guy, Perez.
Right.
But so here's the deal. I think you overlooking the state of Maryland in the last 4 elections have gone the way of Montgomery County. If you want to win a race in the state of Maryland, you got to carry Montgomery County. If you carry it by 100, 110 votes, you win the election. That is the key. It has always been the key. Westmore had it wrong from the beginning. He thought Prince George's County would be the key. It is not. So, but he'll find that out on the election.
But you got a good point, Mr. Henson, except you got how many candidates from Prince George's County running? You got Gensler, you got Perez, you got Francho. You've got 5 candidates from Prince George's County running.
No, you mean Montgomery County.
Montgomery County. You know what I'm saying? You got 5 candidates from Montgomery County running, and I don't think the Francho people are looking to win Montgomery County. I think they finish in the top 3. They think they're okay because Montgomery County is diluted. Gensler could win Montgomery County. He was popular.
No.
He might be.
I said he could. I said he could.
Yeah.
No.
Good. I mean,
Julian,
that is good. I'm sorry.
I got a question for you because you're saying Montgomery County. Can it be done in any combination, taking Montgomery County out of the equation?
Well, normally the way we count it is this. You got to finish, let's say, for example, if Westmore can finish second everywhere, he can win. Okay, but he got to finish second everywhere. And if you can throw in a few first places, then that's all well good. But So sometimes when I count a race and I want to figure out in a thumbnail, how do I win? I know if I can take second everywhere, I'm good to go. But for take Franchos, for example,
As long as it's more than two people,
you
right?
gotta win somewhere. I
As long
mean,
as it's
he
more
ought to
than
be able
two
to win.
people.
Say again?
As long as it's more than two people,
No.
you can finish second. If it's
No,
more, if
no,
it's only two people and you
no.
finish second everywhere, you're second.
I mean, I don't want to date y'all. But when I did Cummings 25 years ago, I knew all I had to do was finish second everywhere. It was 27 people in that race. All I had to do was finish second everywhere. Okay, and no, so it does not matter. If you can finish second across the board, you can win. I mean, that's just loose numbers. I mean, you got to go deeper into the bushes than that. But if I'm Wes Moore, I don't know where he wins, where he finished second everywhere. I mean, of course, prayerfully, he finished second in the black communities, but there's so many other places. And you know, and another interesting thing though, there have been a few black people that have carried some of those counties out in Carroll County out that way over that. You know, Ben Jealous did it last time. And I don't know how he did that, but he did.
What are you talking
So,
about up in
you know,
Eldersburg? Places like
yeah, he
Eldersburg
won
where
a
you
couple
got that
places
flight,
out there, you know.
you got
And
that
I mean,
flight.
there wasn't no votes there. I mean, they were like 6,400 votes and that kind of stuff like that, but he still won it. So, but here's the big thing here. I did a poll for a candidate of mine just last week, and there's still a large majority of undecided at the state level, at the local level. There's just pure undecidedness, and you are, you know, like we say, we 8 days out or so, whatever we are, and you still got unheard of numbers. I did IDs yesterday. I got IDs back yesterday, and the amount of undecideds just on the IDs alone were incredible. Never seen anything like that. I don't know what that foretells for this race. Either people not interested or they not telling or what, but it's just throughout this whole cycle, there's been a high undecided. And so I don't know what that foretells, but it's a lot of undecideds.
So Martin, what's it looking like in Prince George's County? How's Glen Ivy?
I think Glenn is in good shape. You know, as you probably know, it's down to Glenn and Donna for the most part. There are several people with the name on the ballot in that race, but you know, I'm with Glenn, and I know you know, I know it's going to be close because I know that there's a lot of mailers that have probably went out, but I think Glenn's team has been more on the ground, grassroots. So we'll see if that pays off.
Would they re-elect Donna? Really?
I mean, it's possible. It's very possible that Donna wins. You know, a lot of people know her name. You know, so it's definitely possible Donna wins.
You know, it was interesting. There was information out nationally that Donna Edwards was the worst representative in Congress. Did you hear that, Martin?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the ads.
I was shocked that they would say that.
I didn't.
They also put
they were like attack ads by like a conservative project or, you know, people that are usually, you know, not connected to the campaign but are supporting different candidates, whether it be one candidate or group. So, you know, I did see the ads, and you know, I didn't really know her then during her time in office. I mean,
Glen Ivy didn't put that out there because we're talking a primary, not a general election where you would traditionally see that. Glenn didn't put that out there, did he?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Glenn,
well, I mean,
didn't.
it was put out there on his behalf. they also did some other stuff where that
Sure.
she was tied to the anti-Jewish league or something. They did some terrible stuff to her.
Sure, sure. I mean, and when you
She
say
wanna- she-
when
I'm
you say
sorry,
they, I want to be clear. To my knowledge, Glenn didn't do anything. This is like I think like the American Project or Conservative Project, something to that effect. You know, that is paying
But he
for
didn't condone it. He didn't condone it.
no outside group. They
My bad.
he did.
I mean,
Glenn
I
knew.
don't know if
Glenn-
anybody asked him to condone it. Like, you know, to be honest with you, I hadn't seen it on record that, you know, anybody asked, how do you feel about it? Do you condone it? You know, I'm sure he'd make a comment on it.
Martin, anything on the Senate races in Prince George's, the 26th district in particular?
The 26th. Who we got in the 26th?
Well, there's a bunch of people running in that race.
I'm trying to 26.
Sylvia
That-
Johnson's running in that race.
Oh, I thought that was 23. That's 23.
She's in 23.
Oh, 23.
Yeah.
23rd
Yeah, yeah. The 23. I mean, hey, I'm with Rahila. I'm with Rahila on
Why
that
you like
one.
Rahila?
You with the Indian woman? Who is this guy, Don?
Oh,
Now he
whoa.
was off for the white guy.
I'll be honest.
He
All
was
right.
off for the white guy that wouldn't have no black people. Now he for the Indian woman over sister. What is she doing?
Yeah, I think Sylvia is a nice lady. You know what I mean? And that's cool. But, you know, Rahila, I've worked with her on the school board with several issues, not even just on the school board. Like when I was.
That's why she quit. Is that why she quit?
You said why she
Is that
quit?
why she quit?
I mean, she
Yeah, she
resigned.
quit.
I mean, there's some other people who
Well,
resigned.
she quit.
I mean,
She got
I mean-
elected and she quit.
hey, she resigned.
Now
There's a
you
lot-
need to talk to your boy, right? His priorities off. His
There's a lot of
priorities
people
off
that-
that stuff.
Hey, all I know is, you know, I see a record of the work that Rahila has done, and I've worked with her on many of those things. Even though Sylvia, you know, would be a great candidate, I can't say
You're
that.
progressive, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You're
sure,
progressive.
you can call me a progressive, but being
I'm asking you. Are
No, I
you
mean,
progressive?
I don't call myself a progressive. I call myself, you know, people oriented. You know, if you ask,
Are you for black people?
But you ain't oriented towards the black woman, though.
where's
You
up for
ain't
black
people
people?
oriented towards the black woman.
No, I mean, okay. So you want me to vote for Sylvia just because she's a black woman, and you know, not because of the good work that Rahila has done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, understood.
Yeah, I ain't voting for no Indian woman. I mean, it doesn't matter.
So
I get you.
let me say this: out in Northwest Baltimore County, Pikesville, Izzy Schleifer, if I'm not mistaken, has put up a state central committee ticket with all Jewish people.
That's Baltimore City. That's Baltimore City, not
Mhm.
Baltimore County.
Right.
You got two Izzies. You got Baltimore City Council person
No, I
Izzy,
said Izzy Schleifer, but he's
but
put up
Baltimore City.
all right,
Right.
41st district, an all Jewish ticket. How do you feel about that, Martin?
Well, I mean, you know, that sounds like BS. An all Jewish ticket. I mean, yeah, that sounds like BS. I mean, that's really all I got to say on that.
They entitled. They
Hold up,
entitled.
Hold up, Kenny. Kenny, what do you think?
Well, the real question is, you can put any ticket together you want, but can you get it through? And if black people allow that to happen, then they deserve what they get. There's enough, and in the 41st district, it's not all Jewish. It's a lot of black folks there. And if they allow that to happen, then what are you supposed to say? Y'all were sitting right there watching it happen, and you let it happen. There's no reason for something like that to happen.
I think a lot of people are disgruntled, are confused, are perplexed with politics because we don't see a lot of progress. Mr.
Donnie.
Can you? I'm sorry.
Donnie, they're not confused. They're not perplexed. Why are we so confused and perplexed?
We like to think that we can make some progress for our people using the political sphere. But clearly, the more we try, the more we are reminded of January 6th, that this country hasn't changed at all.
So do we give up? No. We keep fighting.
I think we go back to what Mr. Henson said earlier about the disappointment of black leaders when we get black leaders in office. We can go back to Obama. and look at what the expectations are. Maybe we set our expectations too high when we rally around and expect that things will be different when we get these leaders in office, and there's the disappointment. Or maybe we need to train our future leaders a little different in terms of a strategy to ensure that our economics, our housing, whatever it is that we need for our community is something that is on their agenda, and that they don't have a hidden agenda when they ask us to support them, and an open agenda when they get their money from the special interests that put them in office.
Michael, I agree with you on that. That it's a lot of it is our mindset and our expectations. And again, if you think you're electing a person that's going to go in and solve all your problems, then you're starting off wrong.
Right.
So I go back to Martin, and if Martin supports the Indian woman because the Indian woman has a black agenda that he is comfortable with, but to mention her agenda and not mention the black woman's agenda, comparatively speaking, I'm just curious, and I think he deserves an opportunity to defend, hey, this woman will do this, and this woman hasn't spoken to that before I assassinate him as to why are you supporting an Indian over a black woman? Got quantified to me.
Hey, I got you. I mean, hey, like I said, for me, it wasn't about race. Of course, I'm very pro-black. I vote for anything black. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna also be a conscious voter. The reason I'm voting for Rahila is because, as I said, I've worked with her on many different things. I was also the president of Prince George's County Young Democrat. So I remember working with her against the P3 issue. If you remember that big thing going through the school board and many other issues, because as you see, many times you see on Prince George's County, you see the school board in a negative light, right? But there was, a lot of positive things, and there was a lot of organizing in which like Rahila was at the center of. So for me, I'm voting for her because I know that she not only would care for the black people in Prince George's County, but she will also be accessible, and I've seen that firsthand. When I was a constituent person at the county.
I don't trust nobody. I barely trust my own. And let me tell you, I see a lot. No knocking the Indian. We have helped Indian candidates. But I don't know their agenda. I know Mr. Henson's agenda. I know Mr. Haney's agenda. I know Mr. Brown's agenda. But I don't trust this new stuff. You got to prove yourself in my book.
I get you.
Well, we have a situation in Baltimore County where we allowed somebody from that community to come in, and they came in and they just pimped the heck out of black folks.
Oh no! Don't compare her to
this girl. Let me tell you something. What this girl do, right?
Don't compare her.
Rahila, since she's so for black people and stuff like that, she don't come to no black women functions at all. Don't come. Now she got some black people running on her ticket, black women, right? So they can prop her up. That girl won't come 10 feet within black women, but.
I don't know that to be.
It's okay.
That would be a fact.
I'm gonna make sure we get that tail beat for you, though. Okay.
Kenny, tell him about Jay Jalisi out there in Baltimore County. Do he love black people, or do he just give him $500, some fried chicken, and some watermelon?
That's his playbook, and it saddens me that they fall for it.
Well, Mr. Martin, it sounds like she's a friend, and that's acceptable and that's fair. She's a friend. Like, for instance, I got friends I'll go to the hilt for, and they don't have to be black. And if they happen to be running and I say, hey, I'm supporting them because they're my friend, end the story. That's it.
It's all right.
That's acceptable and credible.
I would say she's a friend, but I'm also.
That's all you got to say then. And that's where we begin to teach you. We begin to teach you and Richard how to handle things so that they sound better. Because if you say to her, you say, hey, she's a friend and the fact that you said she's a friend, that means a lot to me in terms of saying, hey, I respect the brother staying with his friend, end the story.
Sure. But I don't even want that respect because of that. For me,
hey, listen.
I'm voting for her because of her proven track record that I've seen over the years, and work that she's done.
Quit the school board. She
I get
quit
you.
the school. What are you talking about?
She resigned to run. I get it, Julius.
Okay,
She
what's
resigned.
the difference between quitting and resigning? What's the difference?
Julius, people
What's the
resign
difference?
all the time to run for other offices. What are you alluding to?
Oh, okay.
What are you alluding
Oh,
to?
that's
Like
what
she
she did? Okay.
was there? I'm confused. You know,
I
like
hope you get her that job back. You gonna give her a job? Because she's
I
gonna
mean,
need one next week.
I get you. I'm sure she's already gainfully employed. If she doesn't
Well, when
get
you
elected,
look at the fact, Martin, I don't know if Mr. Henson's alluding to the fact that Prince George's County is typically in the bottom two of school systems in this state, that if there was ability to influence and help and be of the ability to really push an agenda, that's where it could have potentially happened at. But obviously, maybe she didn't give a damn. Maybe the people in the school system didn't look like her or align with her agenda where it was important for her to stay there. You know, but it's admirable when we look at all the platforms. I've not heard you mention the other young lady in terms of what you may not like about her. Or did you ever look?
I I get it, but I also didn't hear why I should support this other person over their skin color. Like
You're right.
Julius, like Julius. What three policies are you presenting that you would vote for her for? Like I want to
First
understand.
of all, I don't. Indian people are normally racist and prejudiced, so I ain't for them.
Julius, I get it.
Period. .com. I mean,
get
just
it.
from the get go. That's just on general principle, right? And so no. And then if we got a chance, there's never been a black woman or black person in the Senate in the 23rd district in the history of the state, and this is the opportunity to put one there. I'm for that.
Sure.
That's
You
fine.
could also put Ron Watson
Those
there.
are the reasons.
You could also put Ron Watson there.
Well, Ron Watson is he's running. He's on the ballot. I mean, so you had two choices to go with a black person, and you went with an Indian.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
So I'm saying
I think they both gonna take it. I think they both gonna take it up their tail, but still.
I got you.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something.
I still heard no reason other than black. That's all I heard. All I heard.
Okay. Well, I'm good with that.
No policy, anything.
I am very good with that. That's the way I start.
Said that white people vote white given a choice. Black people need to learn to do the same thing. Richard Deshae Elliott, come on in, unmute yourself. Are you frozen?
I'm here. No, I got back in the house finally. I was on the way home, and that's why my camera was moving.
Are you voting for black candidates?
In the local races, yes. At the state level, I'm voting for governor. I'm voting for Francho Anderson Walker. Why am I voting Francho Anderson Walker? Lengthy personal relationship, not just with Peter, but also with Monique. Lengthy personal investment in my political development from the Francho team. And most important for the voters, because the first two are personal reasons, is that Peter has implementable plans on things like Medicare and Medicaid expansion and transit expansion, et cetera, et cetera. Also at the state level, at the statewide level, voting for Tim Adams and Anthony Brown, both of whom I have been doing God's work for in my district, distributing ballots for. At the local level, I turned in my ballot today and I voted for myself. I voted for Latasha Ward. I voted for the Central Committee candidates in Prince George's County for the at-large position, who I believe will be the most accountable to voters regarding their appointments. My county council race was uncontested, and I voted for Glenn Ivey for Congress. So in Prince George's, the dynamic of voting for black candidates, you're going to vote for black candidate, presumably at the local level, but at the statewide level in particular, because Wes Moore does not have any personal, I'm not saying any political, but any personal connections with Prince George's County, whereas Monique is from Prince George's County, is well known in Prince George's County. It is reflecting very well for Peter and Monique at the polls in Prince George's, at least in my opinion. However, more important than how well they're doing, I think that Tom Perez is in real trouble. There is almost nobody down here distributing Tom Perez ballots.
Richard, I love you, man. I love you, and I'd be proud to have you as a son. You're a good guy.
Hold tight, Mike. Mr. DeShiel, are you with us?
I'm here.
Mr. Henson said that we can't count on the Indian community to support us. Why are we supporting them?
Good question. Who provided the answer to the question?
Well, there was a bit of back and forth going. I don't want to restate his comments. Adjust your camera there, Mr. Bashir. Your head is cut off. There you go.
Hold on. Okay. All right. I didn't want you to see my butterflies.
No, we love butterflies, man. Kendrick Lamar has an album on How to Pimp a Butterfly. Okay. All right, so who do you like for governor and all the way down?
All the way down. Well, I like Westmore. I'm still torn between Anthony and O'Malley. I don't like the attack ads that O'Malley put out, but I can't quite forgive Anthony for his declaration that he wasn't black when he wouldn't join the Legislative Black Caucus. I just can't get that out of my skin. I'm sorry. So I'm still torn on that. For comptroller, I'm with Brooke Learman. I don't know how far down you want me to go. That's as far as I'm going. For state's attorney Baltimore, sit down with Ivan Bates. I'll tell you the story about what happened with Adams. It's plain and simple. I got one life to live, and the minute I spend the day, I never get back. I met with him and his people at the Terra Cafe, and we offered him a platform to put him in every black restaurant in Baltimore City. He never got back to me. I'm done. I'm finished. You got to do what you say you're going to do. Period. You have to do that. If I can't count on you to do that when you're running for office, I can't count on you to do it if you get there. It's that simple.
We have your dear friend, Mr. Julius Henson, with us.
What's going on, man?
Hey, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm getting stronger day by day, but right now I'm wounded, so I'm dangerous.
All right, bud.
Go ahead, Mr. Haney.
So who I missed it? Who you say you with Franchos? I mean, who'd you say you was for with the governor?
Westmore.
You with Moore.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, you with Moore. So what do you got against the state's attorney?
I don't think she was ever qualified for the position. Doesn't have anything to do with what she's charged with or accused of. She was never qualified for the position. And she continued to myth that state's attorney is a political leader within the black community. State's attorneys don't have friends and they're not political leaders. Their only job is to lock people up. She had an inaugural ball. What the hell are you doing with an inaugural ball to be a state's attorney? Give me a break.
Hey,
Well, I guess based on that, Mr. Shields, we need a white one then. If its only job is to lock people up. Maybe I thought it was to reform how we as a people are treated with the law. They lock us up, but they let Theroux get a pass for a illegal act, a criminal act of prostitution, right? He didn't get locked up.
I mean, the state's attorney lock anybody up, Mike. It's always been the police to bring them in, for what I know. But in any event,
oh, you said the word lock up. I didn't say the word lock up.
Pardon?
You said lock up. You said their job was to lock up. That's what you said.
But I didn't mean it literally, because I'm talking to intelligent people who know that state's attorneys don't perform arrest procedures. That's police function. Now, if I have to be meticulous about how I speak, if I'm talking to lay people, I would say state's attorney's job is only to prosecute those who've been properly charged for violation of criminal activity.
Fair point, but yet you have a candidate, not your candidate, because you mentioned Ivan Bates, I thought, but you have a candidate for that office that is a leading contender that broke the law.
Who's that?
Theroux.
I'm not supporting Theroux either.
Yeah, but I'm just saying though, you chastise Maryland on one end, right, for her advocacy. So she's an advocate in addition to locking people up. And we need advocates. We need law advocates in our community so that we don't continue to be a prison, a pipeline for free labor in this country, or another aspect of slavery. We need her state's attorney in St. Louis and all over. We need advocates. So we don't need just lockout people.
Michael, the first thing I said was I didn't think she was qualified for the position in the first place. Secondly, with respect to advocacy, when she came out and said that she wasn't going to prosecute the very kinds of crimes that plague most of our community, she lost any support from me. It's the low-level crimes. It's the crimes that my grandmother's scared to walk through the store. Those are the very ones that plague our community, not the murders, not the carjackings, not even the squeegee boards. But when she says she's not going to prosecute the low-level crime, which occurs predominantly in the black community, she's telling me that she's got political rhetoric, but she really doesn't understand the impact of what she says on the people that she claims to represent, in my opinion.
Martin O'Malley understood that, though, didn't he?
Oh, Martin O'Malley clearly did. He got it from the boy in New York.
Cleaned it up, didn't he?
Sure did. Locked up everybody he could see, just like Joe Biden did. Just like Bill Clinton did. And quiet as it kept, almost like Obama did.
It is quieter than a church mouse urinating on cotton. And this is Sunday at 9:05 p.m. We've been joined by Martin Mitchell, Mr. Michael Haney, Kenny Brown, Attorney DeShield, political extraordinaire Julius Henson, and Richard Deshae Elliott. Richard, you've been quiet. Any comments?
What I'd like to know best as possible is what things look like from the turnout perspective in Baltimore City. In Prince George's, the counts have been 40 to 50% of the 2018 turnout at most of the polling places. We have 2 new early vote sites at Chillum and in Brandywine. But of course, these 2 new sites have not really upticked turnout. Right now, I think it's a combination of, number one, the weather between the heat and it was raining the other day all day, and the lack of dates on the signs. Not criticizing any candidates, of course. If they move the election date, you're not going to have your date. But many people are only hearing the 19th and are unaware that right now is early vote. And I'm just speaking that for down here. I'm just speaking from Prince George's. And we've had incredibly low voter turnout, even compared to just 2018. So what do things look like in Baltimore City and Baltimore County?
Let me just parlay over to Martin. Martin, you want to? I'm sorry.
I'm going to agree with you. Baltimore County, we're clocking somewhere between 30 and 40% turnout. And I found something very strange. I was talking to my data guy today. Now, again, these early voting sites have been very, very poorly used, and I hope the legislature goes back and do away with it. There's no reason why we need to do this for 8 days, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at night. We have a new paradigm now, and it's called that mail ballot, and that's the new game. Just like with the pandemic taught you to buy online, to shop online, this is the way we're going to vote from now on. In District 10, our calculations were that we were going to get a turnout of about 17,000 votes. I can report to you tonight that 8,500 of those votes have already come in through mail ballot. So half of the vote is already in, based on our calculations of 17,000 votes coming in. So what do we got? 3-4 more days of early voting, and then we got election next, not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday after that. So it's going to be a low turnout. We're not going to get around that. It's already baked in. But keep in mind, so much confusion has been around this whole election process this year. We're in the middle of July.
Come on, Mr. Henson.
Who are you talking to, me?
Mr. Henson, this is the first time that mail-ins have dominated the reporting.
Well, up to not including the mail-ins, the data that I looked at saw about 40 to 45% of the people were voting, doing early voting. That includes the mail, and then the rest vote on election day. But what is striking, I think, is the fact that it's a low turnout, and these black candidates need high turnout in order to be successful. And thus far, it doesn't look like they're gonna get it. And so that prediction of, you know, going 0-3 might be realistic.
No blacks, 3 blacks running and none win. Come on, Mr. DeShield. Where's the blackness in Maryland?
You don't want to get me started.
Yes, I
Because that won't mean a thing to me until we start defining for ourselves what it means to be black and stop accepting the notion that's based solely on the color of your skin, which we know ain't true. But in any event,
the blackest candidates don't get to win. I mean, Obama wasn't from the projects. Westmore ain't from the projects.
And you know what? That's because the people those who make decisions have successfully convinced those from the projects that they can't win. And you never will if you don't run. That much is for sure. You never will if you don't run.
B. Gaddy ran and won against the machine.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. When you lose your heart, you lose your courage. When you lose your courage, you'll be led by anybody.
Mr. Henson, none of the people on the Baltimore City Council supported B. Gaddy when she ran, and she spanked all of them, including EDO.
Yeah, she did.
Mm-hmm.
Does West have that connection with the community, you think, folks?
I honestly don't think so. But I'm accepting him at his word that he understands that he doesn't, and that he'll do something about it if he wins. That's the best I can do.
Bob, you don't really believe that, do you? That he gonna change?
No. I don't believe he will change. I'm taking him at his word that he will put people around him who will reflect my views. Now, if he lies about it, he lies about it. But I didn't pick any of these candidates, and that's the game that we're in. We don't have a process for really identifying, nurturing, and maintaining our own people. So we're always left with picking the lesser of the evils presented. That's the folly of the so-called two-party system.
The only candidate for governor I saw come to my neighborhood was Rashawn Baker. That's the only one who came to Pennsylvania Avenue, and I invited all of them.
And he was the first one to drop out.
Yes,
hey, Don, that was a Hail Mary on his part. He knew he was in trouble, so he thought he could go and make something happen in Baltimore City.
Okay, well, let's just go around the horn and get some final thoughts before we wrap it up. Kenny, let's start with you. What are we expecting in Baltimore County?
Well, in Baltimore County, and again, the 3 districts I keep my eye on is District 11, District 10, and District 44. District 11, I'm happy to report for the first time in the history of District 11, there will be an African-American taking one of the House of Delegates seats. That will be Cheryl Pastor. That's going to be a done deal. Now, in District 10, what we're hoping is we've had a member of the House delegates we've been trying to get rid of, and I'm hoping that we're successful in that because he's trying to promote himself to senator, and that's Jay Jalisi. He's got to go. And we got that Unity 10 district team out there, which is led by we're going to get Ben Brooks to run for the Senate, and we have Speaker Jones as the House of Delegates, and then we have Scott Phillips and Jennifer White. These 4 people are working well together, and if that continues, it will be a good team to send down to Annapolis.
Okay, what about Izzy Patoka?
Izzy Patoka, and for the first time, and he's got an African American challenger with Tony Fugate, who was president of Baltimore County chapter of NAACP.
Reginald Lewis's late Reginald Lewis's brother.
That's right. Tony's got some hills to get over, but hey, that's why you call them elections. Anything can happen in elections. But
no, Kenny, he's not. I mean, Izzy Patoka got $0.7 million, but
yeah,
it's been suggested that Izzy Patoka could, Fugate could be positioning himself for the next election when Patoka is expected to run for county exec?
Well, I would like to think that was his thinking, but I remember asking him the question. And after I asked it, I realized it was a stupid question. Don't ask a candidate if he's running to set himself up for the next election. What do you expect for him to tell you? No, I'm running to win. And Tony, that's Tony's answer to me. I'm running to win. So, but I'm hoping that this is a trial run for him and he's positioning himself for 4 years later. Because you're right, he's got county executive on his mind. And I'm pretty sure in 4 years that will be an open seat. So Tony could position himself, if he does well, to be in a pretty good position to run for an open seat 4 years now.
Now, what about Julian Jones? Is he running for county exec? What's Johnny Ocheski on do?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think Johnny, he will win his election for county exec, hand down with no problem. He's almost uncontested. But the real deal is, we all know Johnny wanted to go for governor, and he took and he looked at the lay of the land and said, this maybe is not the time. But the real question is, we all know that Gus Ruppersberger, this is probably his last time around. So in 2 years, there's a congressional seat open. Would Johnny be interested in going to Congress for a couple of years and then coming back for governor in 2030? Because if we get a Democrat to win, technically he has to sit out almost 8 years, because he can't run against a sitting Dem. So in 26, even though he's term limit out in 26, he can't run for governor in 26 if we got a Dem sitting there. So he's got to do something. But I think that congressional seat might be something that might interest him. He's a young guy.
Now historically, we got to point out you have more blacks running for more districts in Baltimore County today than ever before. Is that correct?
Well, it always, I tell you what, in District 10, I think every black person in the world always thinks they're supposed to run for something. I think we got 9 or 10 running for the House of Delegates. We got 4 running for Senate. So yeah, we got a lot of candidates, and I think we got 11 or 12 running for Central Committee.
Okay, let's go to Martin Mitchell, Prince George's County. What's the skinny? Final thoughts.
I would say in District 10, I'm supporting Corey Johnson in that race. Although I definitely want Jay Jalisi to lose, Corey Johnson, I'm supporting against the Unity team, unfortunately. And I didn't mention, but I'm supporting Tim Adams. So, yeah, that's a skinny for me.
Okay, Richard Deshae Elliott. And by the way, Martin, you do a show. Plug your show on this network.
Oh, yeah. Check me out every Sunday at 9 a.m. People Over Politics. Next week, we'll have Richard's favorite person, Peter Francho. So definitely check us out.
Hey, that's not my favorite person. It's my candidate for governor, but thank you for the plug. For Donnie, for updates from today, like I said before, very low turnout. We're at maybe 40 to 50%, even adding the vote by mail. There have been nearly 60,000 vote by mail ballots requested by Democrats in Prince George's. Less than 5,000 have been returned by my last numbers, so that's below a 10% return rate. I think a lot of people are still confused about the dates of the election, who's up. And then when you go to vote, if you go to vote in Prince George's, where everybody gives you information at the polls, you end up with, a 3-page or with a 20-page book by the time that you get to the poll place. What that ends up with producing for results, I'm not sure. The other big news for today, and this is not to insult or denigrate any of the Westmore supporters here, but today was the Westmore rally, Get Out the Vote rally in Bowie. And from all of the reports I have heard, just to be frank, it was a disaster. They called a bus. Bus had no people on it. The event was chosen, from all I've heard, because there were already people there celebrating stuff. And most of the people that went were campaign volunteers and such. So I truthfully think that anything could happen for the top 3. Tom Perez could win. Peter could win. Wes Moore could win. But to go back to what Mr. Haney said, and I think also what Mr. Henson said, nice to meet you for the first time, Mr. Henson. I think black candidates need high turnout in order to win, especially with this many different offices open. and the high turnout has not yet materialized. And if it doesn't materialize by the last day, if there aren't lines on the last day, the last day of early vote, excuse me, if there aren't lines that day, I think this is going to be an incredibly low turnout election.
Well, Martin and Richard, we want you to know that we're proud of you. I don't agree with nothing you say. I'm just joking. But we're very proud of you. We're glad to have you on this network. I learned from both of you, and please don't leave us. Mr. Robert DeShield, come on, your final thoughts.
You know, I'm real bad at picking winners, okay? I'm real bad at that. So I can only tell you what I vote for my heart sometimes and not with my head. But the one thing that has been said more often than not, and that relates to the turnout. As I said to Wes in the very beginning, and every candidate that I support, you gotta touch the hearts of black folk if you want to get them off the couch and come out to the polls. And the only one that really even approached that was Rashern, actually. When he started, now he was rhetorical, didn't make no sense, but at least I knew who he was talking to. And so anyway, that's it from me.
Okay, Mr. Julius Henson, political pundit,
Not
campaign manager extraordinaire, guru.
just kind of looking back over this race. I don't think that one of the things that Wes Moore and some others should have done, they should have had a get out the vote specialist, somebody that knew what they were doing to get the vote out. And I think they failed to do that. And you just can't run the campaign and run it and don't know how to turn out your vote. And I don't see that in any place. And I'm afraid we might go 0-3. I hope not, but I'm gonna do my part.
Exactly for what Mr. Henson said, I was watching a Howard County little podcast, and it was talking about how all three of the governor candidates are running very different closing strategies, but they have from the beginning. Peter started it about 2/3 name rec, roughly speaking. Wes Moore has now gotten to about that exact same level of name rec. Wes has been running a name recognition building strategy for most of the race. And that's not to say that if all you have is name recognition, people don't turn out. That's really hard. Peter has been running the retail aspect. And then Tom has been, I would say, basically focusing for the policy people and for the folks that are too progressive to vote for Moore or Francho, not progressive enough or pragmatic enough that don't want to vote for King. From those strategies, I went with Peter in part because retail strategy, if you met somebody, it's more likely you vote for them than if they just know your name. That made it easier for me as a candidate and as a voter. But that is, I think, the most direct reflection of why Wes's team has prioritized the money spend for the advertisements, for the hiring staff, for the literature operation and the signs, rather than for the, for the buses to get seniors from the senior center to the polls, rather than the young folks that know young people who can get people out for the poll operation. At the poll I was at today for Wes Moore, there was a bag that was there all day containing his stuff. Nobody ever came to pick it up. If you can't handle the little stuff like that at the polls, it becomes really hard to win. So if for the people
and there were only 4, yeah.
Huh?
And where you were, there were only, he didn't have to cover all the polls. He only had a few polls, 9 polls to cover in Prince George's County, correct?
There's 13.
13, okay.
But of the 13, if Prince George's, if people don't have your ballot in the hand when they go in a booth, it's very unlikely they're going to vote for you because you're getting so much information. But I'm hopping off the soapbox. It's good to see you again, Mr. Fulton DeShield.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Michael, before you give your assessment, I want to know who has the best lieutenant governor candidate, Michael Haney.
I would say the girl riding the bicycle. Just kidding. I would go with Peter as the, in my estimation, when you look at it, you look at the depth of business knowledge, a bit of political experience, some tie into the political process through her husband. I think Arona is probably the one with the more, if we had to look at someone to take over, if something happened to their candidate.
Aruna's with Wes Moore, Monique Anderson Walker.
I mean, Monique, I'm sorry, Monique Anderson Walker You know, I think that she would be in the better position to take over if something was to happen to the gubernatorial candidate.
If
So that's what
Francho
I
wins,
think.
let me ask you this, and Richard, you can chime in. If Francho wins, Darrell Barnes said he was promised Secretary of Commerce. Will he get Secretary of Commerce?
Yes, and not only will he get Secretary of Commerce, some voters from the 24th District will get Richard Elliott Literature from Darrell Barnes. The chairman of the largest black caucus in the United States is helping pass my stuff out because I'm helping support Peter, because he's going to be the first black Commerce Secretary of the state, and because there's also Delegate Marvin Holmes from Bowie. We've had some fights in the past over liquor and church stores. Martin remembers that.
You're kind of getting away from the topic.
But Delegate Holmes is also being offered some sort of administrative position. I'm recommending him, at least personally.
Does Peter have a black agenda? Joe Gaskin said that he wrote the black agenda. He is now with Wes Moore.
Hey, okay. Well, then I'll speak for just the things I've
Sour grapes.
I'll speak for the things I've been talking
So
about.
you're a Francho supporter, Haney? Make your mind up now.
I didn't say that.
The election's not over. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Elliott.
Hey, Richard.
Go ahead, Kenny. You got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Richard. Was it Julius who said in the beginning? Can you help us understand how in over a year that Francho came out of the gate like a rocket, but in over a year he's only moved about 1 or 2 points, and this whole thing?
Because he started at about 67% name rec. It's really hard to get above that level of name rec unless you were the acting governor or in a position that's
no, sir. We're talking, Richard. I'm sorry. We're talking about the fact that he has not moved in several polls, not his name recognition. The problem with his wait a minute, hold on a second. The problem with his name recognition is that a lot of people do know him, and after umpteen thousand years in public life, they can't decide a week out whether or not they're gonna vote for him.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. He started the race with basically every individual that is likely to vote at least haven't heard of the guy. It's very hard to be a likely voter if you don't at least pay your taxes. Very hard. So starting from that alone, he started about 2/3 name rec. Wes, after spending $6 or so million, actually, no. Wes, after spending about $7 million, is now at about the exact same amount of name rec Peter was when he started. And even with that, Wes is still trailing Peter. Tom is still trailing Peter, and Peter is trending up. There's going to be another poll I've heard of coming out, I believe, any day now. Don't quote me on it for sure because I don't have the poll in place, but from what I hear, the numbers are Peter 25, Wes 18, Tom 19. That still does not reflect the majority of the undecided voters. There's still about 2/3 of the remaining, or excuse me, 2/3 of the quote unquote decided voters, people who pick somebody. Even of them, it says that 2/3 could flip their mind. So at least for me, I think that people are getting a visualization of all the different candidates. They're seeing of each of them, what are they each offering? And from at least what I'm seeing in Prince George's, from having Monique as the LG, from the experience, from people knowing he's electable, from people knowing the name, it is reflecting well. And he's going to get more than that. Let's just say he's been about 20-ish%. Is that fair? Just 20-ish% in the polls.
Yeah, that's
for
fair.
some time. I personally expect that he's going to get about 27 roughly % of the vote.
But you know, I think what we're forgetting, plus I know we only got 3 minutes left in the show, that Rashawn Baker had the higher name recognition in September just under a year ago. He had the higher recognition name, and he was leader in the polls in September of 2021 to all the candidates in the office. So what does that mean to what you're saying? It means absolutely nothing. I think, as you said, the undecided and the black vote, we have to do a better job of educating black people of the significance of the vote. You know, Bob DeShield mentioned heart. It ain't about heart no more. It's about head and understanding that if Black Lives Matter, then the black vote has to be a significant part of Black Lives Matter. And all of us have to figure out what the educational looks like to black people to understand that not just when Obama runs, that all the time we have to vote or else we don't have anything to say. And you know, Martin has the most popular show on blackusa.news, the most popular show. Hundreds of people. He has a platform. Richard running for office.
Popular show on the East Coast.
Most popular show, you know, and he says he's non-politician. And I got to tell you, Martin, I'm honored to be on with you, man, because I know you have a perspective. And as Mr. Henson says, the more we embrace, you know, people like Bob and Mr. Henson and Mr. Brown and understand, you know, the intricacies of politics, the better we become. You know, and Richard running for office. But to the point of Donnie's question, you know, I believe that Anthony Brown is going to be elected. We're going to get 1 out of 3 if we look at it from a color perspective. I believe Theroux is going to win Baltimore City State's attorney. Unfortunate. And I believe that we just have to look at the general election and ensure that Kelly Schultz, who I believe is going to win the Republican side of it, doesn't sway the Democrats in the numbers that we hear they could be swayed to cross party lines and vote, as we saw with Hogan. We saw that with Hogan. Donnie, it's been phenomenal, man. I really enjoyed this.
Right, Mr. Henson, one other point. The flip from Peter starting strong and hitting the road bump. Right now, I would say the biggest danger for Wes is that a lot of these last undecideds are people who are either, a lot of them are like Bernie Sanders, you know, progressive voters, a lot of whom make up their minds late. Of those folks, I'm reading a lot of them are supporting Perez and King. I think that King is hitting his surge right now, and a lot of that is from people who were even at a point going to go for Wes. This late undecided move to Tom, to King. I also think to Ashwani, Jane, and Barron. They're not going to get, you know, 1 million votes, but for all of those folks who are now, you see them at the polls, you see their literature at the polls, you see their signs, blah, blah, blah. If it was like a 3-person race, I think that Wes would be able to kill it and get 40+% and win.
It is a 3-person race.
If it was a 3-person on the ballot race, not 3 people with shot of winning.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, and I hear what you say. But we're getting information from different places because I'm hearing Peter's already plateaued. He is where he's going to be.
Well, that's because he started out earlier than anyone. You know what I'm saying? Just like a marathon race, he went out hard. He started campaigning earlier than anyone, and now he's got to catch his second win and get to the finish line, which I think he will. In addition, I believe Rashawn Baker is crucial, and he's whispering in people's ear because he is kind of conservative. Hey, vote for Peter, because that's Rashawn's politics. I believe that Rashawn Baker is quietly backing Peter Franchot, and that's why Prince George's County is going to be a surprise when the numbers come out from there. I believe that.
You believe?
Well, thank
Michael,
you for joining us. It's been a beautiful evening, Mr. DeShield. Did you want to say something before we go?
I would say simply this, that Michael is correct, that we need to educate our people, but you need to also, in the process of doing that, understand that the head stops at the shoulders. The heart goes all the way to the sole of your feet.
That's real.
Okay.
Good point.
Mr. Julius Henson, Attorney DeShield, Kenny Brown, Michael Haney, Councilman Mitchell. Thank you very much. Richard Elliott, thank you very much, and a good night to you all.
thank you.
Good night.